Hello everyone, welcome to Berry Fun Adventures, episode 15. My name is Tanya, and I am coming to you from southeast Minnesota, where my family and I run Firefly Berries, which is a fruit farm specializing in strawberries, Concord grapes, and naturally dyed yarn. So hello, welcome. It has been so long since I last podcast, so I decided I really wanted to share what I've been working on because I have been making so many things that you'll see I am wearing right now my sloppy old outside staff shirt, and my hair is kind of crazy. I just came in. It is, what day is it today? Thursday, June 3rd, I think. And it is like 85 degrees outside. I came in and I spent the morning weeding some asparagus, and I was trimming trees and hauling branches because my father-in-law comes to mow the lawn for us, which we really appreciate, but some of the trees had gotten branches had gotten kind of low, and I was a little nervous that he might run into them unexpectedly and hurt himself. So I trimmed some tree branches, I hauled some things, I checked out the strawberries. The bunnies have been eating our garden like crazy. People often ask us, what do we do about the rodents or the wildlife that are out here, like deer or bunnies or raccoons? And let me tell you, this year has been a love-hate relationship with wildlife because I love watching them, but the bunnies have eaten all of our broccoli, all of our cauliflower, all of our Brussels sprouts. They've eaten some of our peppers, and the raccoons have figured out how to open my bird feeder in the nighttime, and so when I wake up in the morning it's completely empty. Anyway, it's been a lot, and so I was outside trying to figure out, we have something called plant skid. For those of you who garden, it is a natural, basically it's some stinky stuff that you put in with water. We get it in concentrate form, and then you spray it around, or you pour it kind of around the areas. I don't know if it's going to help or not, but I put some of that out around our lettuce and our spinach, the broccoli that was left, those sorts of things, just to maybe have a chance of having some sort of garden this year. Anyway, but now I'm inside, and I was watching another podcast. I was watching Homespun House with Molly out of Germany, and I love watching podcasts where they just share what they're working on, and I just wanted to talk to somebody, and all my knitting friends are either at work or somewhere else in the country, and I needed to talk. So I'm recording this episode, and I'm talking with my hands a lot. So anyway, I have, like I said, been making a ton, and obviously I'm not wearing any wool because it's too hot. I'm not even wearing wool socks. Sometimes I do wear wool socks in the summer in the air conditioning, but I have been outside, so I'm not cold at all. Anyway, finished objects. I wrote a little list. I finished so many things since I last put out a podcast. So I think what I'm going to do, just to make it easier, because some of these things people have been wearing already, I'm going to just tell you quick about each one very briefly, and I'm going to put a little picture on the screen, and then I'll show you more in person the things that I'm working on right now. But I finished socks for my son Lincoln. So he wanted, if you recall, shorty socks out of the first installment of Lincoln's Littles, which was about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. That was the theme behind it. So it was 7 20-gram minis that he helped me to dye. I made him a pair of striped socks. I used, I guess very loosely, the Rose City Rollers pattern, but he wanted a ribbed cuff. So I think I did a knit 3 purl 1 cuff for just a little bit, and then I knit a little bit longer to make his shorties a little bit longer so they weren't just above his ankle. And then I did the heel and the foot, and I striped, changing the colors. I think I did every 5 rounds. I think I started out with 4, but I was so irritated about all the ends and having to weave in that I stopped. And I moved up to 5 or 6 rows per color. So anyway, he loves those. He's been wearing those. And then I'll show you mine. I had enough yarn left that I could make myself a pair of socks out of the same kit. I have a cat here who's going to try to rub on my camera. Let's see. This is Soleil. She's being kind of nosy. Say hi, Soleil. Anyway, so I started a pair of shorty socks for me because there was enough left over in the mini skein set. And I'm going to show you those when I get to whips. So I finished the socks for Lincoln. I finished a cowl pattern, which I love the pattern and I loved the wool. It's called The Cooler Side of Warm, and it is by Espace Tricot out of Canada. And the pattern is a wonderful pattern. I'll put the picture on here. But the color I made it in orange because I'm attending Zombie Knitpocalypse in just a couple weeks. And our keynote speaker is Gay Gillespie, if any of you are aware, obviously, and you know who she is. Gigi Made It is her YouTube channel, and she loves orange. So I thought, well, I want to make something orange in her honor. So the only orange that I had in my stash was this beautiful, the color isn't me at all, I don't think, but the texture, the way the yarn feels was beautiful. It was called, I think it was by Audine Wools, and it was their sleek base, and it had some wool in it, and I think it had, I want to say it had alpaca in it, but I could be wrong. I will put the base below, and I'll put what it is on the screen. Anyway, I held it double with some of my mohair, and it was a delight to knit. I don't think I'm going to keep it because I don't think I'll wear it, but I loved knitting it. That was really fun. I finished that. Then I finished a Chelsea in Paris hat by Christina, I'm forgetting her last name. I think it starts with an L. Anyway, she is the dyer and founder of Chelsea Yarns, which is a beautiful yarn hand dye company out of New Jersey. And I made it in the Berry Fun Yarns slub figuring. I wanted to try out that base to just kind of see what it felt like to knit. So I wanted to see what it felt like to knit it, and I wanted to have it as a sample to show people at the market. So this pattern is a beret style pattern, Chelsea in Paris hat, and you hold mohair and slub fingering double, and you just knit it. At first, I wasn't so keen on the slub because the little bumps of fiber, pretty much, that are woven into it or plied together made it really hard for me to figure out a gauge, like which needle I wanted. It was either too loose or too tight, and it was frustrating me. So I ended up with this pattern because it's all just knit and purls. There isn't anything fancy like knit, double stitch something. What's that middle one that you do? I can't think of it now, but it's the double stitch where you decrease when you're at the top, or in a lacy sort of pattern. Anyway, it turned out fine. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. I don't know that slub is my favorite base, but some people really love it, and it looks really cool. The hat itself turned out kind of big, at least for my head. I may take a tuck in it if I keep it, or I may donate it or sell it or give it to somebody else who would like it. But it's very slouchy, and it is a very cute pattern. I'm not sure if I showed this on the last vlog I did or not, but I did finish my fingerless mitts. I think I showed these already, but they are out of yarn from Australia, 100% merino, hand dyed from a hand dyer there at a store that I bought it at in Canberra. But anyway, I finished those, and you would think I haven't had a chance to wear them, but there was one Saturday, farmers market right now runs from 7:30 a.m. to 12 noon, which means I have to be set up by 7:30, so I have to get there around 6:30. And one Saturday it was like, we had almost a frost here, so it was like 35 to 36 degrees, and I needed them for a couple hours that morning, so I was glad to have them done so that I could wear them. So let's see, two more. Oh, I finished the Autumn Blush Shawl by Joji Locatelli. This is one of my longest standing whips. I think I try really hard not to carry them from one year into the next unless, they're started at the end of the year. But this one I started in, and of course if they're a blanket, those take forever. But I started the Autumn Blush shawl, I think in November of last year. Excuse me. I knit it out of Very Fun Yarns DK All Star, and it is in the Blackberry colorway. And I don't know why I didn't want to knit it, or I didn't feel like knitting it. It was fine. I think the color it turned out beautiful, but it just wasn't, it wasn't what I wanted to knit. I find that my colors lately have been brighter. I enjoy knitting more springy sort of colors, like bright pinks or mustard or bright yellows, oranges, like just things with a little more oomph in them and not quite so wintry or jewel tone, I guess, maybe. Except the beautiful purple socks that I'm working on that I will show you. Those I love. Purple is always good, whether it's dark or not. But anyway, so I finished that one, and I'm glad I did. It turned out really pretty. Again, I don't know if I will wear it or if I will gift it. Right now it is sitting on my dress form, decorating my dining area. But I think it needs a shawl pin because it's not a super long shawl. It's kind of wider. So I think I'm going to look for a shawl pin to wear it with and then make up my mind and see if I want to keep it or not. But I'm really enjoying just making things lately for the sake of making them, and then when I make them and they're finished, then I decide who they're for a lot of times, just because I'm just really enjoying the process of the knitting. So the last one that I finished, last project, is an epic finish. Do you see this is my big, huge temperature blanket. So this is, I don't know if you can see it, but I have it folded like 4 times right now, but this is the temperature blanket that I made for my son Lucas, who is graduating from high school this year, and it turned out to be a twin size blanket. I finished it over Memorial Day weekend, and it is a corner to corner crochet blanket. And then I did 2 rows of single crochet around the edge for the edging. So this is the right side actually, so you can see. And this is all knit in Knit Picks Wool of the Andes Superwash Worsted. And I picked most of the heathered colorways, and then I gave each temperature grouping of about 8 degrees. So it would be maybe 28 degrees to 36 degrees was one color, and so on. And then I went throughout the year, and I started out doing, you can see these little 3 double crochet clusters here. I started out doing 30 some clusters, and then I was like, whoa, this is going to be way too big. My math was not correct. So then I went down to 29 after doing some math with my husband, but in the end it turned out to be not temperatures from his whole first year of life, but mostly more like his first 9.5 months of life, because I got to the end and it is exactly the size that I wanted it to be, of a twin size bed, slightly bigger so I can kind of go over the edge, but I didn't quite get through the whole year of temperatures, but I love it anyway. Maybe I can add a picture of showing you what it looks like laying on the bed, but it is big. And I will wrap that up and probably give that to him when we have his graduation party. We're not having it until August, so I actually had lots of time, but I wanted to finish it because it was I started it at the end of January, so I did it in 5 months, which I think is pretty good. But it went into the Zombie Knit-Pocalypse knit-along, so I got lots of yardage for my team, which I think it was 3,500 yards or something like that. It was a lot of crocheting. So that was a lot of finished objects, 15 minutes of yabbering and sharing finished objects. So let me show you what I am working on. So I have them kind of down here on the floor. Which one is? Let's start with the Lincoln's Little, the socks that I'm making for myself. So I just finished one. It looks kind of funny. It's not blocked, and I do not have my sock blocker nearby, so we're just gonna run with it. But this is the sock. So this is the Rose City Rollers pattern. I think it's Mara Catherine Briner is the designer's name. So I had just a little bit of the blue left, you can see, from Lincoln Socks, because I made his heels and toes and cuffs in the blue. So I used a lot of that one. But, what was I going to say? So I cast on, I did 64 stitches for my own, and I just, oh, I know what I was going to say. What I did was I took the leftovers from Lincoln and I wound them into balls and I weighed it. So I had so like say if there were 14 grams left, I'd have two 7-gram little balls of each color. So that way I could knit my first sock and use as much of the yarn as possible, and then knit the second sock and still have enough left over to do the same. Sorry about that. I had to step out. My youngest son came in and needed help with something. So anyway, my sock, I was saying. So what I did is I had the 2 tiny balls left of each color, and the blue, I think I only had like very little. So the very tip of the rolled cuff is blue, and then I moved on to the next color, and I did the heel in the same color. So I didn't actually end up fading that one in, but the other ones I tried. If you look close, you can see I faded it in. So basically I knit every other round, and then I faded in the new color. And then this purple one, this one was Willy Wonka. This purple here. That one I really liked, so I wanted to use as much as possible. So I started fading it a little early, but you can see I faded that in for a while, and then I had the next one, which is sort of like a lemony color with some purple, and then there is a golden with some green that was faded in, and then finally the micro striping, green and yellow. So yeah, so this is my first one. I have not cast on the second one yet, but I probably will eventually. Like I said, I'm knitting what I want to knit, so I'm not trying to get too worked up about it. I actually cast on, since last time, 3 pairs of socks for myself, even though I still have 2 other pairs of socks on the needles for other people. But they're for my boys, and they're blue, and I'm not in the mood to knit solid blue. So on Mother's Day, I actually cast on 2 pairs of socks that weekend for myself. This was the first one. I like to have, when I go to the farmer's market in the morning, I can talk, I like to have a stockinette easy project, because if it's not very busy, then I will knit while I wait. And socks I can knit without looking. So this is my vanilla sock. I did a knit one, purl one, twisted rib, and you can see it has a beautiful sparkle to it. And this is Marigold Jen, who is no longer dying. This is her sock base, and I believe it is a 75 merino, 25 nylon, 5% stellina, but I am loving it. It is such a pretty color. So this is my first one. I'm almost to the toe. I think I will finish this first one probably in the very near future, I would say. But I'm loving that one. And where's the other one? I think this one is the other one here. Yes, this one I cast on Mother's Day. My friend Helena from Canada made a pair of these, and ever since I saw them on her Instagram, I really wanted to make one for myself. But this is the Dreaming of Paris socks by Joji Locatelli. And these are I think it's a knit to, it's a paid for pattern on Ravelry, but there's a knit to purl to ribbing, and then there's this beautiful lace section here. And then there's striping, and then you have solid color heel, and then the opposite color when you're striping here is the toe when you get to the end. But these were so fun. The lace pattern was so much fun. It has been a while since I've done lace, and I need to find a project with lace in it because it wasn't hard lace, but just the little design, I really enjoyed it a lot. So yeah, so this is my Dreaming of Paris socks. Again, this is my first one, and I seem to get past I have too many projects going at the same time. Truth. But who cares? I'm the boss of my own knitting, and if I want to cast on something new, I cast on something new. So I'm knitting these out of actually Berry Fun Yarns Jewel Fingering Base, which is an 80% merino, 10% nylon, 10% cashmere base. And this is a very light summer lovin'. In fact, it was sort of an oops. I couldn't really sell it as summer loving with, I think, grape juice, which is kind of a purpley. It's kind of hard to see, but they are looking really good together. And these were, I don't think there's any of this particular color in the shop anymore. I think they've all sold, but in the online shop, there's a section called Colorwork Sets, where it takes 50 grams, like these socks take 50 grams or less, depending on your size, of excuse me, of 2 different colors. So instead of buying 2 full skeins, I kit them up for you with 2 colors that are coordinating like this, where they're sort of in the same color family, or they're more contrasting to use for color work. So these colorwork sets are great for fun projects like this. So Dreaming of Paris socks. I love them. It's making me want to knit on these again, actually. It's funny, I said I wasn't in the mood for blues, or I wasn't in the mood to knit that other one that was purple, that autumn blush shawl. But these are purple. The other ones were purple. I must just have some other reason. I don't know. Who knows? The other one was maybe because the shawl was more patterned. Wasn't feeling it. I don't know. Okay, let's see. I showed you that. And I showed you that. How about this one? This one I think I showed you when I just cast it on. This is the Musselburgh hat by Isolde Teague. And look at this vibrant. Oh, this is really going to blow out. Here we go. Maybe we can. This yarn, this is for my son Ian, who's 16, and he picked out this Holy Vibrant color, which again, I love this one too. I should be knitting on this. And I love this yarn. It is a beautiful base. Let me see if I have the tag in here, if I can find it. Here it is. This was a skein that I got. My family used to purchase, I think it was called, I don't remember. I'm totally forgetting. Oh, Yarn Crush, it was called. Sock Crush. They used to get me a monthly subscription where I'd get 1 skein of sock yarn every month. And then the subscription system changed, and anyway, I ended up with a lot of sock yarn, and I have a lot of it, so they stopped that one. But this one I got through there, and it's really nice. It's called Sea Turtle Fiber Arts. It's out of Canada, and this is an 80/20 superwash, and it's 420 yards, 115 grams, and it's different than my 80/20 base. It's really squishy and springy, and I'm thinking it's like a 4-ply. I'm looking, it looks like a 4-ply, and it's not a high twist like very tough sock that I carry is a high twist, which I love for socks and things like that. But sometimes the high twist, it's not as springy or as squishy as the less twisted plies. So anyway, I only got this far. And the Musselburgh hat, if you recall, I knit one of these before. You start at the top and you knit a big long tube, and then you close it at the end, and then you squish it in, and you have a double thickness hat. So this one I think I'm going to leave out because that one looks like a fun color to knit. I think I'm going to do that one this afternoon. Let's see, I think I have just a couple left to show you. Another one that I cast on since last time is the Tracy shawl by Hohi Locatelli. And if you've been watching any of my podcasts before, or you know me in real life, you know that I love whole locatelli patterns. And this one, I am knitting in a soft singles yarn. This is Berry Fun Yarn Soft Singles. This is the front. And this color is called Storm Clouds, and I do not have any of this in the shop. And the reason why is because it is extremely hard for me to get this exact gray color. So here's my little skein. This is a new little yarn cozy that I made that I am selling at the Rochester Farmers Market. Anyway, I'm going to put a picture up of what the Tracy shawl looks like, because I have been using my iPad and not printing out stuff as much lately. I would like to say it's because I'm trying to save paper, but mostly it's because I'm lazy. So anyway, I am on the increase section, and so this skein, I had 3 of this color, and I loved this gray brown color so much, and I've had it in my inventory for a little while, and I had been very good about, okay, well, somebody's going to see it and buy it, it's beautiful, and nobody had. So I was like, well, it's an omen. I need to take it out of the inventory and knit it myself. So what I'm going to do is, it's supposed to have 2 colors. At first I was going to just knit it all in gray because I have enough, and I really like the idea of having a solid gray shawl that's very neutral, that I can wear with any of my sweaters or shirts, and it won't totally clash with things. But I have some minis that I found. This was sort of me experimenting, very fun yarn stuff. So these are all 10-gram minis, and they kind of I must have dyed them at a similar time with this dye, and I will tell you why. I forgot to tell you why it's so hard for me to replicate this dye. Because it has very similar grays in there. So I'm thinking when I get to the end of the shawl, I'm not going to start, because I don't have a full skein like the pattern says. I have a half a skein. So I'm going to wait a little bit before I start to follow the fading colored sections. But I'm going to put this in at the end, and it'll give it a little bit of color, but not too much. So that's what I decided there. Also, back to why this color is so difficult. So this is dyed with something called logwood, which is a bark from a tree that comes from South and Central America. And I purchased that. I've gotten it through various dye stuff sellers on Etsy, or those that have brick and mortar stores. Originally, I got it from Griffin Dye Works out of California, I think. They're on the West Coast. I will link the shop below in case any of you want to tinker with trying to dye with logwood. But logwood is a really fun dye because you get it as wood chips. I soak it, I boil water, and I measure out. I have a amount that I use at a time, and then I soak it overnight in this boiled water that was originally boiled, and then I just leave it at room temperature. Then the next day I put the wood chips plus the water into a big stock pot with a little bit more water, and then I simmer it for about an hour, I think. And the first time that I simmer it, I get this rich purple, beautiful color. But the kicker is, if you don't use the dye right away, so it varies sometimes. I would say if you don't use it within a week for sure, it starts to lose its purpleness and it turns more into a dark gray. It's not an exact science, at least I don't believe it is an exact science. So sometimes I have what starts out as a bright purple turning into dark gray because I just don't use it fast enough. The second way is that after I dye the wood chips the first time, I simmer it, I strain out the liquid, and then I put the wood chips back in the water, or back in the pot, and I add more water and I simmer it again. That time I always get gray. But how rich of a gray is always dependent on the wood chips and maybe it's a little dependent on how closely I watch the water, because I'm not a sciencey natural dyer in that I don't always check the temperatures. I kind of go with the flow. So anyway, I'm rambling. The point here is that there is something with how you dye it. It goes from a bright purple to a gray to a tan, brown color, depending on how concentrated and how fresh the dye is. And so this middle color is hard to get because it doesn't stay in the middle color state for very long. So I haven't figured out what the timing is to get it to be able to repeat this exact colorway. So anyway, that's a lot of rambling to explain to you how I got gray and why I'm so attached to the gray color, and decided to pull it from the inventory so I could knit something myself. Anyway, that is being housed in my Whimsy Stitches bag. I love this cat bag that I got from Rick. I bought from his shop. He makes excellent bags, and he also dyes yarn now. So if anybody wants to support, I will link his shop below. Oh, I think I have one more project that's just barely cast on, and that is a pair of mittens. So my son, who is graduating and going to college next year, I kind of made a list of things that I wanted him to make, things I wanted to make for him, or things that he requested from me specifically to have with him when he goes to college. And this one is a pair of mittens, because I borrowed his mittens, his colorwork mittens, one year that I had made him, and this was a couple years ago. I haven't made him new mittens in a while, and I used them to prune grapes, which, if anybody has pruned grapes before, you know that's not really a great choice, because the little nibbits of each of the vines got stuck and it pulled a hole in the mittens and they were destroyed. So anyway, this is going to be the Wonder Wander mittens. The pattern is by Megan Williams, who is also from Rochester. And you can see I just barely started the color work here. I'll put a picture on of the pattern of what they're going to look like. But I am knitting them out of, I had a lot of superwash Wool of the Andes left because I did my math wrong, so I ordered way more yarn than I ended up needing. So I am knitting this out of Garnet, the Garnet colorway, which is a really beautiful deep red, and then the Brass Heather, which is a really pretty kind of mustard yellow color. And I was thinking that his new school colors were this, but I think I got it wrong. I think they're actually black and gold, but I don't care. I don't really have any black in stock in my yarn pantry, so this is what it's going to be. So anyway, those will be fun. I need to finish this mitten pretty soon because I need the needles, because we got invited to another graduation, and I thought mittens would be a really great gift to go with the money we're going to give that young lady, because she's going to a college that is notoriously cold. So anyway, the Wonder Wander mittens by Megan Williams. And I think that's it. As far as what I have on the needles, I did have something that I started a swatch for. I made a swatch for. And this I have had in my stash for, I don't know, 3 years at least, the yarn. And it has been, the yarn itself has been wound up for, or caked up for a long time too. And I don't know why it got pushed to the side, but it did. So this is my little swatch. It's kind of fuzzy. So what I did is, oops, it's upside down. This bottom is on a size 3 needle, and then I switched to a size 4 because I wanted it to be a little more drapey. I am swatching for the Puntilla sweater by, you guessed it, Joji Locatelli. And this one, of course, I don't have the pattern printed, so I will put a picture on the screen. I am making out of this beautiful yarn from my friend Sam, Lavender Loon. And let's see if I actually have the names of the colorway. Yes, this purple is the main color, and it is called Lotus Leaf. So it's like a mauvey with some brown colors mixed in. And then there's a little like lace edging, that's this one, which I am going to do, I think it's called Truffle Shuffle. Yeah, it's called Truffle Shuffle. So it's kind of a dark brown. And then because, one, I'm a loose knitter, and I did not want to knit this sweater on size 2 needles because it is a lot of knitting. It's an oversized kind of boxy style pattern. And 2, because I tend to get cold and I want to wear this sweater more in the winter, I decided to hold it with, you guessed it, mohair, because I love mohair. So this is kind of a lighter, wow, mohair on the loose. The mohair is Berry Fun Yarns in Dusty Rose, and it is quite a bit lighter, so you'll see when it knits up it does look quite a bit lighter, but I think it will still look fabulous. And I like that. I do like this purple color too, but I do like it with the mohair, and I like the drape and the warmth that I'm going to get with the mohair. So I'm pretty certain that I am going to still hold the mohair double. So anyway, that's going to be puntilla, and I think I'm going to try and cast that on this week yet. I really want to have a, I should, all truth be told, I should be knitting on my husband's sweater, but I am going to knit this first, I think. I'm going to put my only caveat for his sweater is that I want it to be done by the fall, so I've got time. But this will be a perfect, if I can get it started and get the increases done and get underneath the armpits, so I'm just knitting around and around. It'll be perfect for retreat knitting when I go to Zombie Knitpocalypse at the end of June. So I'm looking forward to that. And I actually don't have a fingering weight long sleeve sweater in my sweater cabinet at all. I have worsted. I do have a fingering held with mohair that's just more of like a tank or like a vest sort of style, but I don't have any long sleeve ones, so this will be fun. So the last 2 things I just want to tell you, I'm being super casual with this podcast because I want to be able to get something out to you, and it's so fun to share what I'm working on. So I may not have all of these segments that I previously tried to have for you, but I did want to say that in the Dyepots I have been busy dyeing, even though if you follow me, maybe you haven't seen anything come up live in the shop, and that is because I have actually been very busy selling yarn at the farmers market. So every Saturday, the Rochester Farmers Market, if you are in the Rochester, Minnesota, southeast Minnesota area, it's held at the Olmsted County Fairgrounds from 7:30 a.m. until 12 noon. And I set up there every week, at least most weeks. I will be missing, well, my husband actually may set up in my place the week of Zombie Knitpocalypse. But anyway, I have been busy there and I have sold wonderfully. I have had a lot of interest in my yarn and I've been selling things there. So when I restock, I have been restocking things that I'm selling there, and I don't ever have enough that I can post it online. So that's wonderful news for the Berry Fun Yarns business, but those of you who are not local haven't been able to get your hands on some of those new things. But I have been busy dyeing lilac, which gives me a beautiful mint green color. I can put a few pictures of some of the colors that I created, that I dyed. I have been busy. I started the advent calendars, so I started making the holiday countdown, 12 mini skeins and the large skein. I have figured out, I think, 3 or 4 of the 13 colors already. I have others in my brain, but I have to wait for the dyes the flowers and the plants to bloom so that I can extract the color from them. But I have dyed up a couple of those. And the pre-order for those is no longer in the shop. However, I am dyeing up some extras. So in the summertime, probably around July, in July sometime, I will probably put up pre-orders again for what I have extra that aren't accounted for. And then I'm also going to do a pre-order for just the large skein color that I'm doing. So I'm doing 12 minis, and then there was an option of a full skein of a different color. And for those of you who don't want to invest in all the goodies and the mini skeins, but would like to have a surprise mystery skein just of the large skein, you can order that. So that will probably come up in July sometime. I'm thinking mid-July sometime, maybe mid to late, because our strawberry season will end around the 4th of July, and then we're going to visit family for a little bit, and then I will start to have more flowers that are ready for me to turn into dye. So yeah, so the Dyepots have been busy. Lincoln and I are looking at doing, he wants to do a mini skein set around Mrs. Pigglewiggle. I don't know if any of you have heard of that series or not, but it is a delightful children's series with a lady who does all kinds of silly things with the children that she cares for. So I have to reread one of those books so that I can help him and we can come up with some colors for you. So that's the Dyepots. And then in the classroom, the only thing I wanted to share was that, again, my son Lincoln, who is 9.5 and going to be in 4th grade, we have been reading together this wonderful series, and it is called the Endling series. It's actually a trilogy, and it is by Catherine Applegate, a children's author. And the premise behind this series is, I read something that the author actually put out that she was telling about how she came to create the series, and she said that she had been reading in the news a lot about animals that were becoming extinct, and it was bothering her. And a lot of her books, she writes a lot of books with animals as the main characters, animals that have conscious thought and human characteristics. So the book follows this fantasy world where there are all different species, but all of the species are conscious. So there's humans, but then there's something called Darnies and Felivets and Pteraments, I think, Raptidons. They're hard to say. Lincoln and I struggle with them sometimes. But they all they're supposed to be working together to make the world better. But the human species has decided they want control, and so they are slowly killing off species so that they can be the ones with the most power. So it follows this young Darnie, Bix is her name, and it's sort of an adventure where a kind of a mismatched group of creatures and humans work together to try to find out if there are more Darnies in the world, or if they're really extinct like the humans say they are. So it's a fun book, but with some thoughtful real life application that pertains to how we experience the world. So we have read, the first book is called The First, the first book is called The Last. The second in the series is called The First, and I'm not sure what the third one is called. That one came out not too long ago, I think during the pandemic sometime. But we're like 2/3 of the way down of the second one. So we take turns reading out loud, even though my son has been reading for a while. He'll read a chapter, and then I'll read a chapter, and then he'll read a chapter. So it's been really fun. So if you have younger kids or grandkids and you want something fun to read to them, I would say any kid that's like probably 8 years old or so would like the series and would like the book. And maybe even younger. You would just have to know your... there's some violence in it, in the sense of, people get killed and that kind of stuff, but it's not like gruesome or anything. So you'd have to know your child. Anyway, that is it. That was all my rambling. Thank you so much for joining me. It has been fun to catch up with you. I have been sort of hemming and hawing about whether or not I wanted to do this, and then I just decided today's the day. And you see I'm sitting in a different area too. I didn't even mention that. I rearranged. I love rearranging in the room, and so I'm sitting on my comfy bench here with this is my dresser back here. So I just sort of went low stress, low requirements to set up, and just sat down to chat with you. So I hope you're all well, and hopefully it won't be too long before I come back to you. Our strawberry season is going to start soon, so June is really busy, so who knows when I will be chatting, but I will be knitting, and I will be making, and I hope you will be too. And I would love to hear from you. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and or subscribe to the channel. And feel free to leave me comments below. I'd love to have comments and to chat with you about what you're making. Let me know what you're excited about. I'd love to hear about it. So take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.